Um, Welcome to the 2022 Youth Government Summit. Our speakers this evening are Jeremy Wolf, who is the District Director for California State Senator Henry Stern. We have Austin Toyama with the Santa Monica-Malibu Unified School District. He's the Environmental Sustainable Director for the school district. And then we also have Kasey Earnest, who is the Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Malibu. And so this evening we'll be going through on a presentation style format. They will talk to you about their careers, and then some commissioners will also be reading some additional questions for our speakers. So we'll go ahead and get started with Mr. Wolf. So next slide. And next slide. All right, so I'll let Jeremy unmute himself and tell you a little bit about himself and his current career path and how he decided on that focus of government.
Great, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Jeremy Wolf, and this is the second time I've spoken at this commission, so I'm really happy to be back here. And so this was not always my career path. And as the slide says, I grew up in the area in Agoura, right over the hill from you guys. And then I went to Cal State Channel Islands, and there I studied psychology. And my whole life I thought I was going to be a psychologist, but I started going on hikes in the Santa Monica Mountains and out in our trails, and I fell in love with it. And I wanted to figure out ways to protect and preserve this unique region that we live in. So my path changed towards environmentalism, and that with leaning towards environmental politics. So I will go next slide.
So Jeremy, what type of programs or campaigns have you implemented that you feel have sparked youth activism?
There's a few that come to mind. I worked with the Mayor's Youth Council, and another thing I do is with Eric Garcetti. He had this youth council, and we helped bring students from the West Valley and tell them and get them more civically engaged in LA politics. But what I'm most proud of is this creek cleanup that I've been organizing every year for 8 years. And we do a big one in September and a small one in May. And we've helped to remove something like, it's more like 30,000 pounds. There it says 25,000 pounds of trash from the Malibu Creek watershed that otherwise would end up in Malibu at the lagoon. So we got your backs up here in Agoura. But every year, new volunteers come out. And many years people want to start their own cleanups. So this kind of started as like one cleanup that's grown into other cleanups by people showing up and getting involved. And so next slide. Okay, this is what I'm the most excited to talk to you guys about. This is my real passion, and part of why I love my job is because I get to work on issues that I care about. And one of them is the Liberty Canyon Wildlife Corridor. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar, and if you're not, you all should be. And you guys live in the Santa Monica Mountains in Malibu. And what happened is the Santa Monica Mountains, very briefly, are an island habitat. We have the Pacific Ocean that you guys live on to the south, the second most populated urban center, which is LA, to the east. To the west, we have the Oxnard Plain, and cutting through it all is the 101 freeway. And we still have mountain lions that live in the Santa Monica Mountains. Now, the issue is that they're trapped by the freeway in the urban development and the ocean and in Oxnard. They have nowhere to go. So our mountain lion population in Santa Monica Mountains is dying off. There's about 12 to 15 left, and there's a 99.9% chance that if something's not done, and I'll tell you about that something in a second, if something's not done, the mountain lion population will go extinct in 50 years. And I think that's a travesty that we created this problem, humans created this problem, and we have a way to fix it. And what we're going to do is the Liberty Canyon Wildlife Corridor. It's and here's our artist rendering, and you can see where. And we're going to be breaking ground this spring on the world's largest wildlife corridor right here in the Santa Monica Mountains. And what it's going to do, it's going to connect the two ecosystems. So mountain lions and the other animals in the Santa Monica Mountains, bobcats, deer, lizard, foxes, plants even aren't genetically isolated. So we can improve the genetic diversity here in the Santa Monica Mountains so to keep a healthy ecosystem. And I get to work as my role as district director for Senator Stern We've helped through different pots of money in Sacramento allocate something like $33 million in the last 2 years of state funding towards this project. So I'm getting to work on that has been just one of the most meaningful experiences. And another one that's not on here that I should have put that I want to say really quickly is we helped to save a parcel called Triangle Ranch. And why that's important to you guys, it's at the base of Ladyface Mountain on Canaan. So they were going to build 60 homes there, and it's a really important fire corridor. And we helped get $8 million to preserve and protect it as open space. But that helps Malibu because it's one of your guys' evacuation routes, and they were going to put 60 homes. So thrilled about those two things. I want to make sure I get through all the slides. So I'm going speed round.
All right, so Jeremy, we're going to have our chair, Nicole Raynaga. Nicole, if you want to unmute, and then we'll just read each question and let Mr. Wolf answer it.
Yeah, my first question is, what advice would you give to Malibu youth who want to be involved in advocacy?
Nicole, it's great to meet you. Thank you for doing this. It's awesome. My piece of advice is to continue to do what you're doing. In what I mean by that is show up to things. Take the time to reach out to people who are in the field that you're interested in and ask them to meet with you. Put yourself out there to connect with folks. People love to talk about themselves and what they're doing. And if that's what you're interested in, people are pretty receptive to that. And so just show up and take the time to get yourself engaged in issues you care about. And you can find that you can make a difference, which is really cool. So I would just say show up and reach out to folks for informational meetings. Don't be shy.
Thank you so much for that advice. And my second question is, what is your favorite part about serving in your position?
And I kind of mentioned it on the wildlife corridor, but my favorite part is dealing with a diverse set of issues. So just to give you guys a breakdown, I work for Senator Stern. He's one of 40 state senators. There's 80 assembly members and 40 state senators. Each senator represents 1 million people. So our current district runs from Malibu all the way to Santa Clarita, the 405 freeway to Camarillo, and there's 1 million people there, and there's such diverse range of issues. And so that's my favorite part of the position, is that one day I'm dealing with the Ringe Dam removal on Malibu Canyon. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, talking about that. And then my next meeting, I'm talking about housing and homelessness issues in Canoga Park. And then I'm doing something in Thousand Oaks about a mountain lion sighting. So it's the diverse range of issues that I get to work on. That is absolutely my favorite part of serving this position.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for being. Does any other commissioners have any questions for Jeremy? And if you do, just go ahead and use the raise your hand feature. Awesome.
Well, if no questions, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I almost at the 6:15 mark, so right on time. But thank you guys for showing up. It's so important to get engaged with your city, and I really appreciate it. And keep up the good work, and reach out to our office if you guys are interested in internships or getting involved. I can put my email in the chat, and love to stay in touch. So take care, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jeremy. All right, so our next speaker is Austin Toyama, and he is the Environmental Sustainability Director for the Santa Monica-Malibu Unified School District. And Austin, just to give you a little bit of background, but the Youth Commission is very passionate about environmental sustainability, and they host beach cleanups and park cleanups and stuff like that. And so you also have a lot of Malibu High and SMMUSD students here on this group. So I figured that this was a perfect opportunity. So we'll go ahead and get started with these questions. Thank you for being here. Austin, what steps did you take to enter like your local educational school government and your position?
Yeah, first of all, thanks everyone for having me. Great that there's some SMMUSD students on the call too, and I hope to eventually meet you guys. So yeah, I guess just to give a background, I grew up in Oak Park, which is right next to Agora Hills, right near Jeremy, actually, funny enough. And I went through Oak Park High School. I went to study environmental sciences at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And I had always been interested in the outdoors, being, in and around nature between Malibu, all of our the Santa Monica Mountains, and being outside and hiking as much as possible. So the environmental sciences bachelor's program just felt like a great fit for me. That kind of brought me into the world of science, climate change studies, regional and city planning classes, and as well as sustainable design courses for cities and municipalities. So with that background, I felt like I had a good, underlying knowledge of why we need to be working towards sustainability as a world and community. But eventually found my way to this position with the school district. And so it's the sustainability manager position. It wasn't always existing. It was before just a contract position. So wherever there was some work that could be done, it was just a short-term position, but I worked with our chief operations officer at the district, and we created this position essentially, and brought it to the Board of Education, and they wanted to make it a full-time district staff job. So that, was formalized earlier over the summer, actually. And then, I still had to interview and everything and put my name in the hat for this position. But there's a sustainability plan for the entire district that was approved in February 2019, and it's on the district website. I'll throw the link into the chat after this, but this position essentially is carrying out that sustainability plan, which has 8 focus areas and tons of strategies and goals for whether it's reducing energy consumption or water consumption, integrating food and gardening into the science curriculum, engaging with students and all sorts of things. But this position is essentially carrying out the sustainability plan that is, adopted by the district. So that's how I got into this position. And it's really great. There's 9 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 2 high schools, and it's just kind of it's a lot to manage, but there's a lot of great things the district is doing in terms of sustainability. And we're always working towards being better. So I could go into more specifics. I think that would be enough for the first slide.
And Austin, what types of programs and campaigns have you implemented that have helped spark youth activism?
Yeah, so a couple that come to mind. Will Rogers Elementary School here in Santa Monica had this open, pretty much it was a vacant lot that the school district purchased, and it was an open grass area. So I worked with the principal at Will Rogers and some community members and parents who were really involved at the school. And we essentially got the district grounds people to rip the grass up, and we started a regenerative farm for this elementary school. So essentially we got the community together, got buy-in from the school district and the principal, and worked on the weekends, organized a lot of people and volunteer days. And essentially now we have fully operational, it's small scale farm, but about 20 rows of crops, a huge composting system on the site, a few passion fruit trees, apple trees, and some stone fruit trees. And it's worked its way into the curriculum for Will Rogers. So now we have garden classes that are ongoing and being taught to the elementary school students throughout the year, just based on what season it is and what crops can be growing. So that's something that I was able to see from start to finish. And it's kind of brought past experiences and knowledge from other jobs and experience all into this. So I got to oversee the operations of it, and we got a rebate from the city of Santa Monica for a little over $16,000 for converting what would have just been grass into this educational farm. So now students are benefiting. I'm hearing from them that they're really stoked on it, and they're happy to be outside, especially during the pandemic. And yeah, it's just a project I'm really excited to have seen from start to finish, and still see it, working its way into the district culture. Something that I'd like to see in a lot of the other areas of the district and schools, but not every school has a huge lot open like that. So besides that, there's other ways to do it at schools. If there's an open space, we can develop a garden, and I've worked with a few other schools to do that. Another project I'd say that comes to mind is the Fairless System Initiative, which was something that LA Metro made available to school districts. And essentially, right before winter break, we got the okay from the Board of Education to spend money and get tap cards for every single student in the district, kindergarten to 12th grade. And it's essentially making public transit available to every student in the district through the end of July 2022. So kids and students can ride for free, unlimited rides through the end of the school year and into the summer. These tap cards are free for the students. The district just had to pay some money up front, but it's something that I push for personally, because alternative transportation and public transportation is so big in getting cars off the road, reducing emissions, helping local air quality, getting kids just more integrated and like associated with their city, and getting people walking and just a little more active. So that was also a big project for us, for me, I guess. And I don't know if I can think of any others right now, but I guess the last one would be, we had during the pandemic, like no way to really work with students. So everyone was at home, and I created this virtual sustainability challenge that was a month long during October. Myself and the Santa Monica High School librarian, we kind of partnered on this, and for elementary school students, we made this month-long challenge. So every day had a different sustainability challenge they could access online and submit to me virtually. So it could have been, see how much trash you pick up, throughout your neighborhood on this day. Go find the biggest tree in your neighborhood and measure it and do research on it. Do a survey of the transportation in your neighborhood, see how many cars go by versus bikers or walkers. Just little ways to get people outside and also educate on small things like anti-littering, sustainable transportation, energy conservation. And that was a big success with the elementary school students during the pandemic. But yeah, those three are kind of the bigger ones since I've been a part of the district here.
Thank you. Next slide. Austin, what is your favorite part about serving in your position?
Favorite part? Yeah, I guess just what's on the slide, really. There's so many different areas you can dive into. My job's fairly flexible, and every school district is going to be different. But I get to wear different hats. Like it says, I work with student groups, PTA groups. There's a few committees that we run that includes principals and teachers from the district, as well as staff from the city of Santa Monica and the city of Malibu. Here in my office, we have a lot of construction and engineers, construction consultants and engineers. So I work with them on finding ways to integrate sustainable features into new construction and into like the renovations for our school campuses. So I have an engineering and like science background, so I kind of get to read plans and work with the engineers and architects on certain things, and then also get to just be personable with people. So working with different departments and student groups is really fun. This picture is a mural at Santa Monica High School, 4th Street. It's like the corner of Pico Boulevard and 4th Street, but this was a mural that was developed with the city of Santa Monica, myself and a few other people, but we were able to get city staff to weigh in on what they wanted in the mural, as well as student groups from the high school who were interested in sustainability. So, getting to work with a lot of people on projects like that and other ones is really exciting. And, just furthering environmentalism in the community is huge. There's no getting around it, and it's not going away. This is a way that we have to live to just preserve, the planet and make a good future for everyone. So I'm really happy to be a part of that.
Next slide. Commissioner Cortese, are you available to unmute and ask a few questions to Mr. Toyama?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Alrighty. Okay, so how can young people make a change in their community?
It's a big question. Kate, is that person speaking after me? Do I have to finish really soon?
We have like 6 minutes. Go, take your time.
I just wanted to know. Okay. Making a change. So I'd say that if you, as a student or young person, if there's a cause you really care for, or you're interested in working towards some sort of change, there's probably a group in your community that's already on that path. There might be an organization or a club at your school who's doing really cool things. So I'd say keep your eyes and ears out for opportunities. You can jump in and become part of that. Before you know it, you're like going to events, and just the more you network within a group that's a part of a cause you're interested in, then you just get more and more involved, and you can be as involved as you want. Just put yourself out there really, and don't be afraid to jump in and just, I guess, get all the experience you can and take it for what it is, and just see where it takes you.
That's really cool. I agree. And what advice would you give the Malibu youth who would want to be involved in advocacy?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Just keep your eyes and ears out. If it's local, that's great. If it's, just in the state somewhere, put yourself out there and don't be afraid to, go the extra mile just to like get an experience and get some things under your belt. Because the more you expose yourself, you'll just learn more and find out things that you want to do or pursue. Join the clubs at your school. And then for the upperclassmen in the high schools, if you're getting into college or you're looking for some work or volunteer hours, really just cold calling organizations or companies that you're interested in. I've done that before. Sometimes they're just like, oh, we could use some help. And before you know it, you're helping a company that you really like, and you're just getting real world experience. So you never know where it's going to lead. And I just say, throw yourself out there.
Thank you, Austin. Does any commissioners have any additional questions for Mr. Toyama? And Garrett, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello. I go to Malibu High School, and you talked about some of the projects at other schools in the district. And I was just wondering if we wanted to implement one at our school, is it something that the kids make a club and start to do, or do we talk to you and communicate with you about starting it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess it depends like what you're trying to do exactly, but a lot of the ways that I've gotten involved with school projects is like a group of students would reach out to their administration, either the principal or club leader or a teacher, and kind of develop what you want to do, whatever idea it is, and then reach out to me definitely, and I can depending on availability and everything, could definitely assist and just be that connection within the district to greater funding and opportunities to develop that. So yeah, I'd say just work with people in your school, but feel free to bring it my way, and I'd be happy to help, because I know every school has something that they want to have done, and we want to have every school get to that point. So
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. And then Austin, if you don't mind putting your email in the chat, that would be great for Garrett to have. Is there any other questions from youth commissioners for Mr. Toyama? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and go on to our final speaker, Kasey Earnest with the Boys and Girls Club. All right. Austin, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll put the link to the sustainability plan in the chat.
Great. Okay. So our final speaker this evening is Kasey Earnest, and she is the Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Malibu. I know that the Commission wanted to hear from a speaker with some experience in leadership and nonprofit organizations. So that is why Ms. Earnest is on the call with us this evening. So Kasey, are you there?
I am here, and I apologize for my tardiness.
Okay.
Unacceptable, but thanks, you guys. I'm glad I could still join. Hope everyone's having a great night.
So Kasey, what are your day-to-day responsibilities as Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club?
So day-to-day can look very different, particularly as of late, given, you know, our challenges of being in a worldwide pandemic. So lots of day-to-day involves evaluation of safety, evaluation of staff and how they're feeling, you know, making sure that we have fun and engaging activities for kids K through 12. And in a normal scenario, I spend most of my time fundraising so that we can keep the doors open. So we're a nonprofit, which means we raise all our money ourselves. And working with our volunteer board of directors. So those are the individuals who join our organization in a leadership role as non-paid volunteers and help lead and provide directive of the organization and how we provide services. So staff, fundraising, and board development, community engagement, doing fun things like this are my primary day-to-day roles.
And can you tell the Commission a little bit about the picture on that previous slide? I know we see some City Council members, we see some SMMUSD former board members, we see Mr. Jeremy Wolf, who spoke to us earlier today, but if you can tell us a little bit about this photo.
Of course. So this is our annual Youth of the Year event and competition, which is actually happening next Friday for the 2022 installment. And in this event, Linda Morazan is being elected the Youth of the Year, who many of you know, and Andrew Springer was the runner-up. So it was a really fun and great year for both of these youth. And then the individuals who many of you know behind you, you even have a Malibu High alum, Brianna Strange. These were all our judges for this year's event. So when we have opportunities to showcase our amazing Malibu youth, we like to bring the community together, leadership and stakeholders, and so they can get a firsthand experience of what our youth are going through and how they're rising up and being amazing.
Thank you. Next slide. What project have you been a part of that you were the most proud of and why?
So this is one of them, and it's ongoing. It's an ongoing project. This photo is at the grand opening for the Wellness Center that the Boys and Girls Club facilitates. And the Wellness Center provides free counseling services and mental health and wellness services, and now social services for all Malibu High, middle and elementary school students, their families, and now our social services are meeting the needs of seniors in the community. So this was the ribbon cutting event. The Wellness Center has grown so much, it's now moved to the former Juan Cabrillo Library. So this is at the Boys and Girls site previously, but why I'm so proud of this is to be a part of something that is meeting the needs of our youth and not just providing a service, but making it incredibly accessible. We're on campus, we're in our classrooms, our teams meet with our administrators, we're very intertwined in everything that we do. And if a youth needs counseling services, all they have to do is walk across the access road, and we have an incredible team. And I think being able to be a part of something that's so needed, particularly given the pandemic and Woolsey fire and everything that we've gone through, this has been one of my ongoing proudest projects.
Okay, next slide. What do you feel is your greatest professional accomplishment?
So I would definitely couple, the wellness services in that bracket. I would also say, our organizational response in the aftermath of the Woolsey fire was a huge undertaking, but also something that I am incredibly proud of, not just myself, but our team and our board of directors. We established in the wake of the fire, homes were still burning, and we established the Malibu Emergency Relief Fund. And by the time we closed the fund, we had passed out over $2 million in emergency funding grants and workforce development to community members who were affected by the fire, workers who lost jobs due to the fire, and are still providing ongoing support to so many fire victims who are still in a recovery phase. And so being a part of that and being a part of the support has been probably one of my proudest moments, for sure.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna now turn it over to our vice chair, Jaclyn Raynaga. Jaclyn, if you can unmute and let you take these last two questions.
Okay. Was your current career always your career path, or what made you change your focus?
Well, it depends on which decade, vice chair, we're talking about. When I was in middle school, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I wasn't very good at math or science, so I kind of aborted that goal. But no, from pretty much college into my college career, I was pretty determined to work in public policy and be in a political arena. And then I had the opportunity to do so. And I realized it wasn't for me. I wasn't really a part of being that delivery of service and I didn't have an impact in how services were being chosen and delivered. And so from there, I realized I needed to go into the nonprofit space. And I did. And, 25 years ago, that was a lot harder than it is now. You can get a degree in nonprofit administration, which is incredible. That didn't exist 20 years ago. And so I changed, but I have been in nonprofit sector for my entire career, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Cool. Okay. What advice would you give to Malibu youth who want to be involved in advocacy?
I would say advocacy can take on a lot of different roles and looks very different depending on the youth, the personality of that youth, the cause, the comfort level, and that it can mean a lot of different things. It can mean letter writing to elected officials. It can mean joining protests or marches. It can mean starting a club at your high school to bring awareness around a cause, which I think is always amazing. It can include social entrepreneurship, where you are using your brain and innovation to bring awareness and solve a human problem. There's so many different ways advocacy can occur. And I think, it occurs all around us every day in different formats. And you don't have to be a part of a big group to be an advocate and to use your leadership skills.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, does anyone have any additional questions for Ms. Earnest? Go ahead and use the raise your hand feature if you do. Great. Kasey, if you wouldn't mind, some of our other speakers put their contact information in the chat, just so if any of the commissioners have any follow-up questions on any of the programs, they can contact you. But otherwise, commissioners, this will close out the Youth Government Summit for 2022. And so what we'll ask that you do is log out of this meeting, and then at 7 o'clock, you'll log back in using the different link for our regular meeting. So you have a little bit of a break, and then we'll see you guys all at 7 o'clock. All right. Thank you so much to our speakers, Jeremy Wolf, Austin Toyama, and Kasey Earnest. Thank you guys. We'll see you at 7.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a great night, you guys.
Bye.